Moving on now to spy news. China. Australia's angry neighbour to the north-ish, who's always drilling holes in the fence for no particular reason at all. Nothing to see here. Australia's national security agencies fear a wealthy Chinese businessman who set up a sophisticated spy ring to get Labor candidates elected in the upcoming federal election still feels emboldened to interfere in the nation's democratic process. And we can't have foreign businessmen interfering with our elections. We have enough of our own wealthy business people attempting to interfere with the election as it is. Best we stick with an Australian-made business person, as they will clearly have Australian values at heart. And Rupert Murdoch, we can let him do it as well. He's not technically Australian anymore. He gave up his Australian citizenship, but we will make an exception for him. Now, Rupert is a man so dedicated to the Australian way of life, he makes sure to manipulate millions of votes every year, so no matter where he lives in the world, his mind is never far from his home. How many votes have you manipulated today, dear listeners? None? Well, where is your dedication to the system? Where is your dedication to making sure that the people that you want are in power? And this is why millennials get nothing done. Apparently, Chinese spies tried to bankroll New South Wales Labor candidates in the federal election in an attempt to get sympathetic and vulnerable MPs elected to federal parliament. The plot was foiled by the nation's counter-espionage agency, ASIO, preventing the spies from getting the Labor candidates pre-selected. Because of its intervention, no candidates of concern were ever endorsed. Instead, the stellar New South Wales team, who has done a smashing job of handling COVID and getting the entire country interested in local politics by turning it into a scandal-driven drama, the likes of which neighbours would be chomping at the bit to put to air, and would likely still be being funded if it was writing anything anywhere near as juicy as that, went to the Liberal Party. Yeah, that's right. So instead they got to be in charge and empathetically look after the state. Now, the Liberal Party, being the bastion of respectable behaviour that they are, would never use China, Chinese people, or Chinese influence to manipulate a vote of any kind. They would never authorise the placement of multiple cases of election signs which resembled official signs from the Australian Electoral Commission telling voters in either Mandarin or Cantonese to give their first preference to the Liberal Party candidates at 13 polling stations in the electorate of Treasurer and Man attempting to launch the newest cute reboot of a previous popular character, Baby Cole, Josh Frydenberg's seat at Kooyong. Nor would they in 29 polling booths in nearby Chisholm, which was won by current federal member of Chisholm and woman responding to the general call-out, "If you manipulated Chinese voters, raise your hand!" Gladys Liu, with the clear intention of manipulating non-English speaking voters. That would be unethical, possibly illegal, and they would never do it. And certainly, a member of such high standing as this would never misfill in paperwork listing all organisations which they are or have been a member of or active supporter of, failing to declare her council membership for 2 chapters of an organisation called the China Overseas Exchange Association, which, according to the ABC, were part of the Chinese government's efforts to spread influence overseas. That wouldn't happen. That would be unethical and potentially very dangerous. Nor would they be honorary chair of 2 other organisations linked to the Chinese government's United Front work propaganda and foreign influence activities and fail to also declare that. No, I can't have you thinking these things about Gladys Liu. It'd be as suspicious as finding out that the Chinese Communist Party's propaganda outlet the Global Times has published a series of articles endorsing Liberal Party leader Scott Morrison, going so far as to praise Morrison's deep understanding and unambiguous perception, as well as his Confucian wisdom. While such articles would definitely be unethical and certainly send the wrong message across any sort of spectrum, political or otherwise, I happen to agree with the assessment that Scott Morrison is full of Confucian wisdom. So I've broken down some of the Confucian sayings. We've had a bit of a look and we dug up some old Confucian wisdom that applies to Scott Morrison. So here we go. Music produces a kind of pleasure which human nature cannot do without. A classic thought from the Book of Rites, which is why the Hillsong Church didn't get in any trouble when they ran a non-music festival. Give a bowl of rice to a man and you will feed him for a day. Teach him how to grow his own rice and you will save his life. Which is clearly the longer way of expressing the PM's favourite phrase, the best form of welfare is a job. No lake so still but it has its wave, no circle so perfect but that it has its blur. I would change things for you if I could. As I cannot, you must take them as they are. Which, when you think about it, has formed the fundamental core of the Liberal Party's guiding principles for as long as they have been in power. I wish we could do something, but we can't. So suck it up. When you have faults, do not fear to abandon them. A noble Confucian thought that we can see the Prime Minister implementing every day as he keeps refugees in detention. As the act of keeping people in limbo in detention is a huge fault of which he is not afraid to abandon by leaving them in detention until they become someone else's problem. So wise. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Another example of Confucian wisdom from the classic Confucius best thinker, Confucius the Analects. Here we see the primary purpose of all the mining we have been doing, which has been so expertly hidden from us. We are invited to understand we are simply looking to move the mountain of climate responsibility one small stone at a time, one piece of coal at a time. So deep, so wise. And finally, who among us can deny that not just Morrison himself, but the entire Liberal Party has taken this quote to heart, embodying it with their every motion, their every breath, their every belief. It's truly a true North Star for the Conservatives. I followed my heart without breaking any rules. Just look at the Confucian wisdom there. Just so proper. And, you know, if they did break any rules, they certainly weren't aware that they were rules, or that anything had gone wrong, or maybe that anything had happened at all. So wise. So very wise. Now our spy news subsection, sexy spy news. Ooh. ASIO boss Mike Burgess has revealed foreign spies are using Tinder and other dating apps to recruit Australians with access to sensitive government secrets. Scandalous. Presumably sending seductive messages disguised as fuckboy banter, like, you wanna fuck the country? In a wide-ranging address to an audience of military chiefs, security bosses, and politicians inside ASIO's Canberra headquarters, Burgess confirmed espionage and foreign interference has now supplanted terrorism as the principal security concern, especially now that most of the terrorists are white-wing. Sorry, I meant right-wing. I just get those confused all the time. right-wing extremists bordering on attacking the government at the behest of the more extreme ends of the government in order not to be controlled by the government. Yeah, I think I've gotten that right. During the past 2 years, thousands of Australians with access to classified information are believed to have been targeted by foreign intelligence services using social media profiles, which may be the impetus behind the reason of the Prime Minister's sudden and deep interest in social media, or that it could be his thin-skinned baby used to being in a sheltered position of power, but the power of social media makes fun of him and is slightly more upsetting than the power it has granted him, so like spread some bullshit, so it must be destroyed! Could be either. Mike Burgess said, "These spies are adept at using the internet for their recruitment efforts. There's been a jump in suspicious approaches on messaging platforms like WhatsApp, for example. Clearly, nobody has wanted to date any of these people before they had access to power, but now their proximity to danger, to information, has caused a reverse James Bond scenario where they get their neck snapped after inviting this mysterious new woman in their life with a super believable name like Ivana Fuckalot, or cool non-spy chick in your area looking to bone. But before they even have sex, they've snapped their neck. This is why they insist on hiring only the saddest men with zero sex appeal to the cabinet. It's an anti-honeypot measure. If any of the members of Parliament were even slightly attractive and one might believably want to sleep with them, then, well, we wouldn't have clear red flags being thrown up when someone flirts with them. It's actually why the coalition won't hire many women, because women can actually get laid, making it quite a bit harder for spies to be found out. Not because they're sexist. No. You gotta understand that they understand that women can get it whenever they want, you know, like that's just, you know, men have to work for it. Men have to work harder. But women can just get it whatever they want. So clearly we can't put women in charge, and nothing else. We're just protecting. It's a plot to protect us from spies, and nothing else. We're not angry.